Tomas Radl was just 13 when he was taken to Auschwitz. He wrote a book about his experiences and recalls a tremendous will to survive.
Everyone wanted to survive, and those who did asked themselves, what do we do now?
With the number of concentration camp survivors dwindling, Radl warns people not to forget the lessons of the Holocaust.
A catastrophe such as the Holocaust can happen again.
A sobering warning that the tragedy of the Holocaust could happen again. Certainly something we should think about and talk about as people around the world mark Holocaust Memorial Day. Let's talk about it now with Rabbi Abraham Cooper of the Simon Wiesenthal Center. He is joining us this morning from Los Angeles, and we're also joined by Ford O'Connell from Newsmax Washington. Rabbi, we appreciate your time. Tell us right now, as we heard the message from that survivor, Rabbi, do you believe, in fact, the Holocaust could again happen in these days?
Well, thanks for having me on. You know, we're named in memory of Simon Wiesenthal, who was the great Nazi hunter. He himself lost 89 members of his family. He helped bring 1,100 Nazi war criminals to justice. He was asked this question all the time, almost a generation ago, and he said, if you have hate plus technology and a crisis, anything is possible. Now, he said those words before we had something like the internet and the social networking. You have a government that's prepared to act out on hate, has a bureaucracy it can apply, and then a target. We see in our own time today that literally anything is possible. From a more global perspective, you know, our belief is that God put us on this earth, and each of us has freedom of choice and accountability for our own actions. And that means within our genes, it lies the potential of maybe being the next Martin Luther King Jr., or God forbid, the next Adolf Hitler. So from the point of view of the human condition, the Holocaust warns us that there is no red line unless society continues to learn from the past. That's
a great question, Rabbi Cooper. The Holocaust was the worst incident in modern world history. Why do so many Americans and people around the world seem to forget it so easily? I mean, I know you talk about the next one, but part of understanding where the next one could come from is understanding the previous one. Why do so many people seem to forget it?
I think there are a number of elements, the most important one of which is another part of the human condition. We don't like the bad news. Many people, many leaders don't want to confront the evildoers directly. And I don't want to make the leap directly to the most prominent concern the Jewish world that many Americans have today with Iran. But, you know, Adolf Hitler started his rants in 1919, didn't come to power till 33, didn't start World War II to 1939, and the gas chambers to 42. The world saw what was going on, and were more interested in getting that item called Peace in Our Time. And then when the world woke up, it was too late. So part of it is a willful denial. Part of it is the fact, of course, today that so many younger people don't have direct connections to their grandparents, their grandfathers, or uncles or fathers who fought to defeat Nazism. We are losing the eyewitnesses. So it's an even greater responsibility. And the third element, I'm afraid, globally, is that the Muslim world, including significant Muslim communities across Europe, when their kids go to school, they basically don't want to be told the truth. They don't want to hear it. Unfortunately, part of their collective consciousness is hatred towards Jews and denial of history. And then, you know, what motivates the Jewish world, obviously starting with Bibi Netanyahu, is the memory of the Holocaust. And when you have the Ayatollah talking about annihilation of the Jewish state, a non-negotiable, eradication of Israel, we take such rants very, very seriously. We learn the hard way. So I think at the core, the main problem about remembering the Holocaust is that the lessons are very, very tough to absorb and to apply.
And as you mentioned that, Rabbi Cooper, you certainly laid out the rationale for the World Holocaust Memorial Day. When we come back, we will speak more of the here and now, what you just alluded to in terms of Bibi Netanyahu, the state of Israel, and the gathering storm that could be brewing with the nation state of Iran. All that ahead as we continue our conversation on America's Forum right after this.
My friends, I've come here today because as Prime Minister of Israel, I feel a profound obligation to speak to you about an issue that could well threaten the survival of my country and the future of my people: Iran's quest for nuclear weapons.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressing a joint session of Congress last month, warning that if Iran got nuclear weapons, it would threaten the future of Israel and the Jewish people. Let's continue our conversation now here on America's Forum with the Associate Dean of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, Rabbi Abraham Cooper, and with Ford O'Connell, who rejoins us from Newsmax, Washington. We heard it from Prime Minister Netanyahu, Rabbi Cooper, the concern about a nuclear Iran. And I just have to ask you, in your mind, how dangerous is Iran?
Oh, there's no question that Iran is a major existential threat to Israel and to the entire region. I know tonight is going to be the beginning of Yom HaShoah, and in Israel that'll start with people across the country stopping everything, standing for in a moment of silence, then going to programs. Every single Israeli, from far left to post-Likud, all have one thing on their mind today, and that is the growing threat of a nuclear bully in the region. And it also means, in terms of the Iranian threat to the Jewish people, we know they were behind the deadly bombing of the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires. We know that Hezbollah and Hamas are lackeys of the Iranian policies. We know that Iran, the Revolutionary Guard, are now already opposite the Golan Heights in Syria, opening a new front. So the threats from Iran are very profound. And the Jewish state is, of course, based on a return to Zion historically. And also, if you want to think of it in the modern term, a kind of Jewish battleship, a safe haven finally for the Jewish
Rabbi
people.
Cooper, given all of the threats you've discussed, why do you think that this White House, from your perspective, is so eager to do this deal and try to bypass the United States Congress so that the whole world can review it?
Well, obviously, from the point of view of the administration, they believe that if they can bring Iran and Iranian behavior back into the civilized mode, it'll be a win-win for everyone. The devil is in the details, and as you know, as recently as yesterday, Jewish leaders, including Rabbi Marvin Heyer, the founder and dean of our institution, met directly with the president, raised these issues, and I can't go into the details what the president said. Obviously, the administration feels that at the end of this particular deal, the region and the world will be safer. The fact that the
Rabbi Cooper, that allows me to follow-up question here. Do you think that bringing Iran back into the civilized world, giving it money from employing the sanctions, do you think that that's going to make the Ayatollah and his regime any more amenable to those in the neighborhood, including Israel?
Based on their current behavior and bellicose rhetoric, I do not believe that's the case. I believe that not just the United States, but the P5+1 should have been signaling the Iranian regime that there's going to be a basic fundamental cost involved that has not only to do with inspectors, but with behavior. And, you know, where next month, the president and all the European leaders will gather in Germany to mark the 70th anniversary of World War II. But as Rabbi Heyer said yesterday in the White House meeting, not one leader, not one country for the P5+1, including the United States, ever spoke out against these continued genocidal threats against Israel. So From the point of view of the goal, everyone can agree with the goal. From the point of view of how the Iranians approach things, so far they appear to be, given a very, very easy path, and they have shown no indication in the pre-nuclear world that they're changing their behavior,
And
their rhetoric whatsoever.
Rabbi, we will have to leave it there. Our thanks to you, Skyping in from LA, and to Ford O'Connell from Newsmax, Washington. We're coming back.